Hi, my name's Aaron Linsdau. I'm a polar explorer and professional traveler and adventurer. Today I'm going to show you how to choose the right boot and shoe for your next adventure into camping, climbing, hiking, polar exploration, and mountaineering. How do you choose the right boot or shoe for your next climbing, hiking, camping, adventure, polar exploration, ski trek? Well, that's what I'm going to get into today. But before I do that, if you wouldn't mind hitting the subscribe button, that helps support my channel to bring this information to you. And also, please leave information below about what you would like me to make videos on, and let me know how I'm doing. Thank you very much for subscribing and supporting. So let's get right into it. As you can see, I've got this massive collection of shoes. It's pretty crazy. I look like a shoe maniac, but really, each one serves its purpose. So instead of look, every shoe here and boot has a specific function. And what I'm going to do is go from the ultra light, super light to the absolute crazy, most expensive, and give you an idea of what it takes to go buy these shoes, get them, and select them for the right type of adventure. Now we're going to get right into the different shoes and things that you're going to need for perhaps all these different adventures that you can go on. The first I'm going to start out with are the simple sandals. And these might look, what's the big deal about that? But when you're hiking and climbing and camping, or maybe doing a water crossing, these sandals are really valuable because after a long day of hoofing around in heavy boots, sandals are so nice to put on to lounge around camp. Now that said, I don't use them that much for camp lounging, simply because I don't want to get stabbed in the foot or anything. But these for crossing creeks is a huge, huge benefit, because that way I don't get my boots completely soaked and have a miserable slog. So these are really valuable. And the weight of these particular shoes, and you can use Crocs or these, I'll put links below to everything. These are 14 ounces. They're not super light, but they're great options. The next step up are my trail shoes. Now I actually used to hike and backpack in the trail shoes almost exclusively years ago. But what I found on a 3-day backpack trek with shoes, even with a pretty light backpack, is that my feet started to hurt. Now it could have been a function of training or anything else, but I converted to the light hikers, and that's just me personally. So it's something to consider. Also, your trail runners can be converted to ice runners. If you check out these screws on here, you can actually convert your trail runners into being able to run on complete glare ice. That's what I've done with these. Also for training, I put these screws in here, so when I'm doing tire towing, they allow me to tow my tire, and I only tear up the screws. I don't tear up my shoes, because I've wrecked very expensive boots towing and thinking, oh, this is great training, but in fact I just wiped out my boots. So putting these screws in here is a really, really handy way to expand the range of your shoes. I'll put a link below to how to do that as well. The next step up are my light hiking boots. These light hiking boots, these Merrell Moab ventilators, have, I don't know how many pairs I've been through over the years, probably half a dozen, maybe 8 or 9, because it puts so many miles on them. These are my favorite light hiker, summer, good weather type of hiking boot, and they've taken me all around the world. I've done light climbing in them, no ice or snow because they're not waterproof, but they're super light. Let me get a pair going here just to get you an idea how much a pair weighs. They are 2 pounds 8 ounces compared to my trail shoes at 2 pounds 1 ounce. So for a mere 7 ounces, I get huge protection and mileage. They're very breathable. I don't have any problems with overheating with these boots. Dust does filter into them, but I've told you that I've used these on an 80-mile backpack in the Golden Trout Wilderness in California, just to let you know how good they are and how many miles you can put on these things. These boots definitely rock. Now, When you need to step up to the waterproof option, then I get into my Keen Dry waterproof boots. And you can see I put some extra goob on here because I've had these long enough where I've started kind of tearing them apart. And you can see I'm probably going to need to replace these soon, unfortunately. But wow, they're really getting beat up. But I love these boots. Now I've also put Super Feet in there, and that's been very helpful. I'll talk about Super Feet in a moment, but these Keen Dries are my light or midweight waterproof boots that I've used trekking and also hiking around Europe in the rain and everything. These have done incredibly well. And let's see, where have I taken these? I've taken these in the Sierras, in the Rockies, knowing that it's going to be rainy, but it's not going to be snowy because these, even though they have a shank in them, they're not really designed for crampons at all. My next step up of boot are Vask. My Vask boots are pretty awesome. These things have taken me up Gannett Peak, glacier climbing. I've taken these across Greenland in the fall, which probably wasn't a good idea. They work down to -20 if I'm going and hoofing constantly. But they were not warm enough at -20 in Wyoming. I got some frost nip, kind of stingy toes. Just to give you an idea how much these weigh. These boots weigh in at 3 pounds, 14 ounces. So definitely more substantial, wonderfully waterproof, and they work incredibly well. Let me put my scale over here. So these boots really get it going. They have a 3/4 shank. You can't see them. They're pretty inflexible. They're not invincible, and you can see the mud in there as well. I have used my crampons, my regular non-crampomatic style crampons to put these on, and I've climbed up mountains with these. So these are before I get into the much more serious and much more expensive boots. Now, if you want to actually get into some mountaineering, you have a couple of different choices. You have this single wall insulated boots. These are La Sportiva Nepal Cube GTXs. These are super nice. They wear very well. As you can see, I haven't really scuffed them up too much, but they'll see their mileage. These boots weigh in at a hearty 4 pounds, 12 ounces. Now, for mountaineering boots, these are really, really light, and I'll put a link below to these as well. They're not cheap. As we've marched up the realm here, we're going from $40, $50 sandals, $100 trail running shoes, $110. Light hikers, midweight, these are $120. These Vasts are about $140. You get into these, whoo boy, now you're talking hundreds and hundreds of dollars, depending on where you buy them. But these will take you up some serious ice climbing treks and everything. They're fully crampon compatible. They have a heel welt here and a toe welt, so you can use clip-in crampons. That is vastly more capable than non-welted boots, but they are not as flexible, which you might think, oh, that's bad, but in fact that non-flexibility is super important for crampons. That really makes a difference. So once you march up to this level boot, you're kicking butt. But note that these probably don't work below 0 degrees. It's just not going to be comfortable in that sort of temperature. Instead, you have to march up to what's called a double boot. These are my La Sportiva Barenses. They are pretty hardcore. I've used the Nepal cubes on Mount Hood and perfectly comfortable, no problem. But the Barenses, these are where you get into the high altitude 6,000 and 7,000 meter peak boot. This will take you to most peaks you'll ever do in your life. Now, double boots are different because this mountaineering boot has a single instep or a single insert where you singly insert your foot. Sorry, I'm saying it wrong. But these are what are called double boots. And the liner actually comes out, and this is what's called a double boot because you actually have two boots. You have the outer shell, and then you have the inner boot, which is thermally formable. You can actually see my ankle dent there. And this is a much warmer boot. I was standing around at -18 degrees in Wyoming with this boot on and perfectly comfortable. Hiking up and down Mount Elbrus in Russia, perfectly comfortable. It got a little chilly in the night because we just had to do a lot of sitting around, but that's an effect of the altitude too. So these boots will take you 6,000 and 7,000 meters. They're really incredible and incredibly heavy too. So that's a thing, as you march up in warmth of boots, they become substantially heavier. These clock in at a healthy 6 pounds, 15 ounces, give or take, if I'm weighing that right. Yeah, we're talking 7 pounds on these suckers, so 3.5 pounds each on your ankles. They're really, really heavy. Now, if you want the ultimate boot, the Malays and the Olympus Mons, these are where it's at. Now, the Malays, these are what I bought. I love these things. They are pretty crazy. As you can see here, they are what's called a triple boot, where you have a built-in gaiter. And then, let me unzip this. These boots have Velcro and zipper. They are pretty crazy. All right, you unzip that, and you've got this insulated liner here. And then pull this out if you can. And we'll undo this. And we'll take out the inner liner. These are not easy to do. There we go. So as you can see here, this is the inner liner of the boot. Then you have the actual boot itself. Then you have the outer sleeve of the boot. This boot is what you would use on Denali, Everest, where else? Antarctica, Mount Vinson, if you're climbing in the coldest places ever. Lots of people actually go with a double boot on Denali or Mount McKinley, simply because the Malays and the Olympus Mons are pretty hardcore, but I have never had cold feet in these boots. I've known people who have used double boots and they're pretty chilly. You have to have overboots, which I'll go into in a minute. So just one boot alone weighs 3 pounds, 7 ounces. And if I can get the other boot on there, let's see if I can do that legitimately. 6 pounds. Very comparable. 6 pounds, 15 ounces. So they're actually really comparable to the Barenses, which is very interesting. But the Malays are much warmer than the Barense because of the triple boot design. So those are all the march up to the, hey, I'm going to do crazy Everest, climb in Antarctica type of boots. But what other sort of boots or shoes might you need? Well, if you're doing any sort of cross-country treks, whether it's just into the woods or anything, you have the triple in style binding. These are insulated classic cross-country boots. These will take you into as far as you can ski. They have some insulation. They're not incredibly warm, but they will get the job done. Then, if you want to get into the most extreme boots here, let me weigh these just to give you an idea. They are 1 pound each, so 2 pounds for a pair. But the most extreme boots I have, other than for the mountaineering, for polar trekking, are these Alpha Mordre Pros. They are expensive, custom ordered from Norway. Now, they don't look like much. They look pretty beat up because I wore them for 3 months straight and done multiple treks in Yellowstone. And they have a triple pin design compared to the double pin of the regular ski boots. The triple pin I like better, simply because there's less likelihood of failure. These boots, again, weigh in at, let's see if I can weigh that here, about 6 pounds and 2 ounces. My toes did get, or my feet did get a little cold in Antarctica with them, but it was minus 50 and minus 60 with raging winds. Would I have preferred to have a Malay? Possibly, just for the extra insulation, but these Malays are not compatible with regular skis. So to get up to this level of boot, they have to be custom ordered. The liners are pretty crazy. By the time you're done, you're in the $1,500 plus range. I mean, it's just stunning. Now, you see some other boots and shoes here. What are these? These are my Western Mountaineering down booties, and they are love. I use them when I am camping in any potentially cold or extremely cold locations. These down booties have literally saved my toes more than once. I put my feet in them and all beautiful warmth. These are ultralight at a scant 4 ounces for the pair. I know it adds a tiny bit of weight, but this is well worth the weight. Now, if you need something, and I don't walk around and camp in these, even on glaciers like Denali, because the bottom isn't really designed to take that kind of abuse. It's okay, but it's not great. So instead, what I do is I bring the 40 below down booties. These are synthetically lined, and these booties, they have this rubberized bottom on them. I have marched around on Denali at 14,000 foot camp at minus 30 degrees with a 15 or 20 mile an hour breeze, and these kept my feet warm. They are incredible. Now, on Denali, I would actually bring these as camp booties and my down booties as well. These for sleeping and these for marching around. I know it seems a bit silly to bring multiple boots. However, this allows me to walk around in camp without having to have my malays on. So this makes life much more comfortable. And in a pinch, I can take the liner out of the 40 below down booties and actually jam these booties into my malays, so that way I can take the liner out and let them dry out. Or my bronces as well. I can take the liner out, jam these boots in there, and walk around in pretty comfortable, loving foot love there. So that's a thing. Now, you see some other things here. We'll get into we'll get into that gear in a moment, but so often a lot of the boot liners are kind of cheap, and that's the thing that's kind of grating about this, is these liners are like this, the La Sportiva, Bronces, anything. They're just these cheap foam liners because the manufacturers, at least from what I've been told, say, hey, we know you're going to replace the liners if you do, and you can put something much better in there. The one that I've always used are Superfeet, and these replace the liners, the foam liners inside, and they've got hard plastic here, arch support. They do much better. So the Superfeet, I've got them in my Bronces, I've got my Superfeet in my Malays, I've got Superfeet somewhere, the thermal version of the Superfeet inside of my Alpha Mordre boots, Superfeet in my other hikers in here. They do add a substantial cost to your shoe, but they extend the operation and make them feel so much better that it's actually a pretty good trade. So now, what we're going to do is we're going to get into the sock system. My favorite socks are the Wright socks, W-R-I-G-H-T. These things are a great double-line sock, and it's actually like wearing 2 socks to prevent blisters. And then what I do is I combo that with any one of 3 or 4 different weights of smart wool socks, from a regular hiker, medium hiker, to a very heavy cold weather hiker, to my ultimate, I'm going to summit Denali or Everest mountaineering sock. So I use this sock in combination with one of these 3 and rarely, if ever, have problems. I love that sock system because these allow me the variety to change the warmth and the fit of the boot. Also, I don't usually get too torn up. My Bronces fit okay, but my heel's loose. I'm working on a solution to that. The cubes, no problem. My Vasque's pretty good. Every so often it gets too hot, just like I've had with my Bronces on Alberts. It actually got too hot. My feet start to slip around, so usually I have to crank down the laces on that. That's a little bit tough. Now let's say you have a problem of, hey, I can't afford all these different boots, but I want to get something that I can add warmth to my boot without spending an extra money just for a specialized boot that I don't use too much. And that's where, let me put this down for a moment, that is where Supergaiters and Overboots come in very handy. These Supergaiters allow you to put a complete gaiter over your boot, like my Sportivas. I can put this over my boot, wiggle it in there, and turn this boot into a double boot. Now note that this will end up weighing roughly the same as a double boot, but I don't always have to have it on because those few ounces on your feet can make a world of difference when you're hoofing up and down. I'll put a link below to all these different things, but this Supergaiter from Mountain Tools is probably the best out there. It is a workout to get it on. Let me put this on and show you what it looks like. After quite a few minutes of struggling, I finally got the Supergaiters on, my Nepal Evos, these La Sportivas, and it takes these boots, which are a basic insulated mountaineering boot, near the range of my Barunses, not quite the range of my Malays. I would put these on in a pinch and use them, but if I really needed to start off with a double mountaineering boot, I would still step up to the Barunses, or if need be, go up to the Malays. But these guys, Supergaiters, are a definite option. They expand your range. I do have our new custom designed insulated gaiters that'll be out and available next year, so check out the links below. Send me an email if you're interested in them. But that gives you an additional option to expand your shoe capabilities without having to buy an entire shoe store. Okay, now that you've seen that put on and then I've taken it off again just for showing, the Supergaiters are really incredible. They're a very specialized piece of equipment, but they extend the warmth of your boot a lot. Does it make your Cubes or your Evos a double boot? No, it does not. It does extend the range. They are hard to get in on in the cold. So if you need a double boot, don't go with the single boot and think, oh, I need Supergaiters. Use the Supergaiters to extend the range, knowing you're kind of fudging the system, avoiding the double boot. So that is a good way to go there. And again, these Supergaiters, they're super insulated, really incredible, but they are not light. They weigh something like about 1 pound, 10 ounces. So that adds substantial weight to your boots there. The other option are, I've got a pair of my Mountain Hardwear over boots. These are meant to be used, say, on Denali, where you don't, with the Supergaiters, you can still put on your crampons, but with the Mountain Hardwear over boot, you just put your boot simply inside of this. You jam your boot inside of this, and what that allows you to do is, if I can even get it in there, because these are large, but they only really fit these boots, and that's about it. And then you can hoof around to camp, and these over boots allow you to use a single wall boot, but hike around to camp and stay relatively comfortable. So these do very well. Again, a specialized piece of gear, but adding this over boot to your Sportivas, these Mountain Hardwares, you add this over boot, and you can extend the range of comfort when it gets really cold. That boot literally fits all the way inside this over boot. It does look a bit crazy, but it does work. All right. Another option I've got, talking about bringing a product out, is an insulated gaiter. Now, this is a custom designed outdoor research insulated gaiter where we have the base outdoor research gaiter, but it has special insulation in there. And I've used this gaiter with my Vask boots to climb Kilimanjaro. This gaiter plus special toe caps made all the difference in the world to me. It allowed me to climb up Kilimanjaro. My feet were never cold. Other people were really suffering. And I was only required just to bring these leather boots, but my specialized insulated overgaiter with a toe cap made a huge difference in my experience. So that allows me to wear a boot like this instead of these cubes. And even though the weight difference isn't that much, I don't really want to use my Sportiva cubes on Kilimanjaro when I don't need to, because they are extra expensive and technical. Plus, they don't flex at all, and you don't really need that on Kilimanjaro. So these were a much better choice with my custom designed insulated outdoor research gaiters. Check out the link below. Send me an email. Let me know what you think if you'd be interested in this. This design allows you to extend the range of warmth very, very well. So that's nice. And there are regular gaiters as well. I cannot recommend regular gaiters enough. Other than the Malays, which have a built-in gaiter, I always use gaiters on any of my mountaineering or hiking boots if I know I'm going to be in snow. And I have my short trail gaiters as well that I will use even on my super light hikers just to keep the rocks and sticks out. So those low gaiters make a great combo where you have these cool keep the junk out options on your boots, but you can go with lighter boots. So gaiters are an integral part of your transport system on your shoes. Now, these micro spikes allow you to use them, and I can use them on anything but my ski boots, my Polar Expedition ski boots and my Malays. I can use these on, not on my double boots, I'm going to have crampons, but I can use these on my Nepals or anything else. These micro spikes really give you a lot of traction without having to worry about wearing serious crampons. Now, crampons are a couple different types, and this is the other part of the boot system and shoe system is, hey, I've got to get into this, but I need something, what do I do? There are a couple different designs of crampons. This is a black diamond, pretty old one. These are my Gravels. They go into the toe welt that I showed you earlier. These can clamp onto just about anything. And whether you have, where's my stuff here? Shoot, disappeared somewhere. Oh, there we go. Just let me throw these down. There's so much stuff on here, and whether you use a crampon bag or the rubber point protectors and my little yellow mesh bag, whatever the case is, crampons allow you to expand the range of your heavyweight hikers, your single wall insulated climbing boots, your double boots, and your extreme mountaineering boots. These crampons allow you to walk up ice, snow, and all sorts of craziness. So this pile of crampons allows you to extend the range of your other boots to a whole level of extreme. The micro spikes allow you to get around the ice when you know you don't need crampons, but it's annoyingly slick. These really get the job done. Also, there is the option to use snowshoes or skis. Snowshoes are pretty much compatible with just about everything. I've worn snowshoes with my Keens, my Vasks, my cubes, my double boots. Even on Denali, I've used my Malays with my snowshoes. It's really incredible what you can do with those. So hopefully this gives you a better idea of all the different options you have for choosing a boot or shoe for your next climbing, hiking, camping, trekking, or polar exploration. You go from maybe $50 to $1,000 to almost $2,000 and everywhere in between just to keep your feet moving. But your feet, other than your brain, are your most important tool to take you to where you want to go. If you have the right footwear. Now, this looks a bit extreme. I'll see if I can add the whole price up of all this stuff and show you this big price ka-ching of how much of it I've invested. But all these different tools allow me to go all sorts of different places all around the planet. High mountains, the South Pole, North Pole, cross Greenland, long distance trekking, travel, just about everything. One other thing you want to consider is get some Gold Bond powder, foot powder for your shoes, because after you're hiking and trekking around and in snow, they can get kind of smelly. So this is the powder I've used to sprinkle in my boots, suck up some of the badness. It's going to happen. When you get home, definitely take apart your boots, put a fan on them, air dry them. Do not put them in the closet and forget, because if they are a little bit moist, you can wreck them simply because of the mold and mildew that'll happen. So how do you choose between these different boots? Is simply a question of where are you going to go? What are you going to do? And should I go with lightweight and very airy, or waterproof, or extreme? Now, The decision between the double and triple boot, kind of tough because I've seen people use both on Denali and have a good time. I have seen people use a single wall boot with an overboot on Denali, and that usually works. But boy, when it got to minus 30 and people's double ski boots were cracking and they were cold in their double boot, while I was fine in my triple boot, that is something to consider. This is very specialized, but when you're way up in a mountain and you're getting frostbite on your toes, you would happily hand over your credit card. So choosing between waterproof and non-waterproof is a little bit tough. If I know it's going to be summer conditions and it's probably not going to rain at all, I will definitely err on taking my lightweight, non-waterproof, breathable hiking boots simply because I want the lightest, fastest, breathable option possible. If I know I'm going to get into anything kind of crazy, but still summer comfy, I'll go with my Keens, waterproof. They can take a little bit more beating. If I know it might possibly rain, definitely a good option. If I need to step it up, like, I'm going to go up Gannett Peak or something in Wyoming in the Wind River Range, or maybe Mount Washington, non-winter climbing, my Vasks will do very well. As soon as you get into these boots, I mean, I've seen people in tennis shoes on Gannett and Shasta and Mount Hood and all that. So, that's a thing about mileage, but this is a much more serious boot. I've seen tons of people with this boot. The Cube up on Shasta and Rainier and Hood. I know if it gets below zero, your feet are going to be pretty cold, and that's where you have to go into the double boot. Once you know it could be below zero, you're going to have to kick and climb a lot in ice. Double boot is just mandatory because once you freeze your toes, I've gotten frostnip before, taken a month, no tissue damage, but nerve damage where my feet would tingle and burn for a long, long time. If you're getting into polar exploration, there are really only 2, maybe 3 boot options on the earth to choose from. There are only, as far as I know, the Malays and the Olympus Mons. If you're going to do Mount Vincent and Antarctica or Everest, or I love them on Denali. It's super cold on Denali, but I had no problems there. So that makes that pretty easy. I would say, just need to get the Western Mountaineering down booties. Once you get them and it's cold and freezing, you put your feet in them, you're gonna think, why didn't I buy these a gazillion years earlier? Man, these are awesome. If you know you're going to be at a base camp on a glacier, hoofing around, the 40 below booties, can't recommend these things enough. Joel's company is incredible. Can't say enough about his mountain booties. These just made it super easy. Minus 30 plus degrees, marching around, pretty sweet. Smart wool socks and right socks, that's my ultimate go-to system. It's just a question of how cold is it going to get and what sock do I need. And whether you use a different type of overboot or you need crampons, that is dependent on your conditions, of course. And I've put crampons down to here and all the way back up. I wouldn't put crampons on my Keens. They're just a bit much. I have put micro spikes on my Keens. Light hikers, not going to happen. You can even put your Catahoula micro spikes on your runners as well. It totally works. Super great option. I like the screws simply because of that. Cross-country ski boots, of course, are pretty specialized. So hopefully this gives you a good idea of all the different boot options and how to choose based on the conditions I've used them in and where you might use them too. And you can check out my book, Adventure Expedition 1. It's all about how to plan, train, and prepare for your first expedition, and it explains all these different boots and shoes, their purposes, and where they might be useful. So in this bad boy is a treasure trove of information that you can learn more about these boots. My name is Aaron Linsdau. I'm a polar explorer, professional traveler, and adventurer. Please like and comment on my video and subscribe to my channel to support it. Please support me on Venmo, PayPal, and Patreon. Thank you very much for watching, and get out and explore.